Now, a poll commissioned by the Henry Jackson Society, which is a counter-extremism think tank, found that 46% of British Muslims said they sympathise with Hamas.
The poll also found a huge divide between British Muslims and the general public over social issues such as homosexuality and the traditional role in the household of women.
Yes, well, joining us is director of the new Culture Forum, Peter Whittle, who thinks the findings are quite worrying, and political commentator Joanna Jarju, who thinks that we need to not overreact to these figures. Well, Peter, the question really is, these findings from this polling of attitudes among British Muslims, do they show that integration has failed?
Well, yes, because the problem is, Emily, with the way you put the question, is that somehow or other, it is sort of up to us to make sure that people integrate. I would say that when people come to this country, it is up to them to make sure that they integrate. And what we're seeing by this poll, you've highlighted some things, but some of the other findings are absolutely shocking. I would add, for example, that the headline finding was that only 1 in 4 British Muslims actually believe that Hamas, for example, carried out murder and rape on October the 7th. I mean, that's not just an opinion, that's a denial of reality. But to go back to the points that you originally highlighted, which was that 52% of Muslims think that we should make it illegal to show pictures of Mohammed. And I would add as well, something like 32% would like Sharia law to be introduced in Britain. Now, what I would say is that, well, there are already something like 80 councils of Sharia already operating in the UK. Why would you come to a country and then want to change its very legal system? I think that what this report, which is shocking but not surprising, shows is that, in fact, attitudes amongst the wider Muslim population are more extreme than maybe many people would like them to be. I use that advisedly because we're always being told that there is a kind of small minority or whatever. But frankly, as Tom mentioned there, on issues like homosexuality, on issues such as in the home, huge divergence. And
OK, Peter, let's throw that over to Joanna, because it is incontrovertible in this that on many of these questions, it's not a small minority. On some issues, like the wishing to outlaw homosexuality, that's a majority.
Well, Tom, I think that in situations like this, we have to look at it holistically. So we're talking about homosexuality when it comes to the Muslim community. I'm Catholic, and I know that, the Catholic Church has very strong views on homosexuality. So it seems as if when we have these types of conversations, we use the Muslim community as a scapegoat, as the only community that have backward views when it comes to this.
Hang on, Joanna. Do a majority of Catholics want to make homosexuality illegal?
Sorry?
Do a majority of Catholics want to make homosexuality illegal in the UK?
I'm not saying that the majority of Catholics do, but what I'm saying is that the Muslim faith is not the only faith that has, quote unquote, backward views when it comes to things like homosexuality. But also, I'm not going to take this one poll and take it as gospel in terms of what the majority of the Muslim faith thinks. I know
there have been other polls, though, haven't there, Peter? Peter, sorry, Joanna, but Peter, there have been other polls that have shown worrying trends.
It's not a trend, actually. Since I've been looking at these polls, basically the numbers stay roughly the same. And actually, what is interesting as well is that one of the great tropes of multiculturalism, which we all meant to believe going way back, was that somehow younger people over a period of time would become less, sort of radical, or should we say they would slightly change their cultural attitudes and beliefs. It's not happening. So when it comes to Hamas or any of these other issues, the younger you get of people polled, the more radical they are.
OK, let's throw that back to Joanna now. Joanna, what do you make of that?
Look, I don't deny that there is a pocket within the Muslim community that are extreme, and I think that that's the same, to be honest, when it comes to all across the board. And when we think of things like this, we also have to consider... Sorry, can I just finish? We also have to consider that since the October 7th attacks, there's also been a 600% increase in Islamophobia. That's not to say that there isn't pockets of the Muslim community that have also been anti-Semitic, but I just think that when we look at how certain groups of society behave, we shouldn't just pick just the Muslim community and say, okay, we've seen this poll and they're the ones that are the problems. There's actually problems across the board. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. So to pretend as if integration hasn't happened just because of them is just disingenuous.
Thanks, Joanna. But Peter, okay, so we've got this polling. I think 1,000 Muslims were polled on this. What do we do with this data?
Well, what I would say is, first of all, we should stop being frightened of being called racist or Islamophobic. We should be able to criticize. We should absolutely, and this is down to the government in the end, it should absolutely lay it on the line that this country has a particular culture. It is nominally Christian, fair enough, but therefore what that means is that we should be able to criticize religion freely. Remember, we've just passed the 3-year anniversary of a teacher up in Batley in Yorkshire who did show a picture of Mohammed to his students simply as part of the RE class. He's still in hiding, right? His life is being destroyed. So for my friend here to talk about things being just like a pocket, why are we picking on Islam or Muslims, playing the victim card, I would add again. We have got to be absolutely clear of what we are as a country. You've also got to say to people, if you like Sharia law and you want Sharia law to be live under Sharia law, then there are many countries in the world that have Sharia law.
Okay, let's throw that back to Joanna.
Look, I'm not saying that people wanting to change the law to Sharia. I'm Catholic, for God's sake. Like, I'm Christian. I don't want to see Sharia law in the UK. I'm not saying that there isn't a pocket that are pushing for that. But what I find really disingenuous is that when we talk about integration as a whole, we'll pick one side of society that we think are an easy target and say, well, the UK isn't integrated because of them. The UK isn't integrated because of this particular pocket. When what I'm trying to say is that, especially after the October 7th attacks, which this poll focuses on, you can see that there has been an increase in Islamophobia as well. And that's not Islamophobia of me kind of virtue signaling and saying anybody who criticizes Islam is Islamophobic. I'm talking about actual hate crimes. So to just completely disregard that and not kind of take into account that it comes from both sides and different pockets of society and not integrating with each other. And might I say that some of this Islamophobia, the majority of it has been targeted on Muslim women.
But Joanna, we can't shy away. We can't shy away from looking at this data and thinking about what the consequences of such attitudes could be. But thank you very much. Appreciate both of your input. Sorry, Peter. We'll speak to you again, I'm sure. Peter Whittle and Joanna Jarju. Great stuff.